share also their vote with the full committee, and then maybe their points as far as why they're voting that way or something. I don't know. It feels like something is lacking just to kind of get an email that, hey, somebody voted this way, that way, and we don't hear anything about, well, you know, what was their rationale too. That exchange of ideas and opinions is that process is really, I think is important. But I think whatever we get to whatever we need to do to get those on the table. But like you say, at the end, we're going to be taking another final vote. We may not have any more. Will we have more discussion near the end, or will that happen too, or will we have discussed to death?
So we'll do after we go through all this data, which we've had, and then we can review it, make straw votes on, discuss it, make straw votes on it, and then we'll have a chance, hopefully, and everybody can be present, and we can run through it one more time so we can make a formal decision and presentation to council.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I would think by the time you get to that process, then you'll know which items need more discussion that you're really not settled on. And my guess is, or my hope is, that there'll be plenty of items that, yeah, we're good. We don't need to talk about that. So hopefully you'll just be focused on the matters where you really don't have, you barely have a consensus or a majority of folks. And that's where hopefully you'll spend the majority of your conversation. And on that note, to Janice and the rest of the board, for what it's worth, I think you all have done a really, really good job of communicating with each other in what is a really difficult environment. And you know, having been in local government now for 22, 23 years, and have been, you know, on either a city manager or city attorney since 2004, 2005, you don't really appreciate how much communication happens just by being physically in the same place. Until you're not able to do that. And we haven't had a single meeting where you all have been together. And but I think that you've done a fabulous job of taking a lot of information that, you know, and Lauren and I talked about, you know, how to get this information to you. And it's like, there's just a lot of information. I don't know when to stop and say that's too much, because, you know, everyone's going to have a different you know, knowledge base coming in, and I didn't want to make any assumptions that some of you knew everything, and there weren't folks that were coming from a different perspective. But I think you all have just done a fabulous job of moving the needle forward at each meeting, given the fact that there's just so much communication that happens just by being in the room, that walking into the room, leaving the room, going to the parking lot, anything. And we've experienced that a good bit on the city council, where hopefully you're not studying our meetings too much. But for those of you policy wonks that are really into it, you'll know that some of our meetings, you know, we've had some topics that have gone for a really long time, and you think, okay, what are they talking about? Why is this taking so long? But you know, when you don't have that ability to communicate, the eye contact and things is a real challenge. So I just want to commend all of you.
Well, and along those lines, I really thank Amy and Lauren and Patrick. You know, when I was a reporter, we would thoroughly research what we needed to get. And thanks to y'all, we have that now. And so I think we can go ahead and really debate the numbers, have good discussions, but we have all the information, we have the statistics, we have the pros and cons. So now I think it's an informed discussion that we're able to have. So thank you to all three of you.
Ditto. Totally agree with Peter's comment there. Thank you, Lauren, and the staff. Great job.
Okay, I agree too. Thank you, Patrick and Lauren. Lauren, since you have to go, should we go ahead and get into the survey?
Sure.
Everyone can see all the great work you've done.
So we're pushing it out tomorrow. It was supposed to be Tuesday, but things happened, so we're going for tomorrow. The infographics look great. We're going to look at those right now on the slide. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to show where we're at now, the growth trends of Charlotte, how much we've changed, where other peer cities are at, and then give them enough information to be able to make informed decisions while they complete the survey. So our first infographic is just explaining the city of Charlotte. We have a council manager form of government elected every 2 years. You all know this information. Then at the bottom, it explains total annual mayor compensation, total annual council compensation, and the average residents per district. This number is probably off slightly. We're taking what's on the council district tool, but that's the number we have right now. It's probably increased. Then our next infographic is looking at growth trends since 2000, from 2000 to 2010, the city grew around 20%. And then from 2010 to 2019, it again grew another 20%. So we've really grown a lot. And in this, it looks small on the screen, but it looks a little larger in the survey. We're sort of taking the data that we've collected and putting it in a digestible form, looking at our North Carolina cities over 50,000, our peer cities, and Mecklenburg County, which is probably the one we want to compare ourselves the most to, who has a council manager form of government, who has 4 years, who has 2 years, who has term limits and who doesn't, who has staggered or who has concurrent terms, who does nonpartisan elections, who does partisan elections, and then district representation. Are there more at-large representatives? Are there more district representatives? And then in our last graphic, it's comparing compensation. And I think this has been updated. The numbers on Mecklenburg County were wrong, but those have been updated. And looking at the average size of a governing board. So this will give the survey takers, along with the introduction, context to the survey. And I think Pete's input really helped with the questions. So we've incorporated that. And I think now the survey does tell a full story. And I think any member of the public could make informed decisions on the survey. And I'll send you guys a link to the survey and just check it out. Let me know what you think. If you have any edits, please tell me before noon tomorrow, and we will try to do a media push tomorrow. And our goal, just so you know, we're looking at distributing it to our staff, our members of boards and commissions, to neighborhood organizations, community leaders, and to people involved in the zoning process who really have a lot of contact with council. Are there any questions on the survey?
Okay. So Lauren, this is Janet. So the survey will not go out to the general public at large, or it is going to go to
Oh, it'll be accessible to the general public at large. It'll be on our website.
Okay.
They'll post it to Facebook. So, and then I'll send the link to you guys when it's complete, and you guys can push it out to your networks as well.
Oh, okay. Those groups that you just mentioned, you're going to be using them to help push it out to the community. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Lauren, just to clarify, when you get the results, will we be able to see the different groups that responded? In other words, you know, to see what the city staff thinks, to see what neighborhood groups think. I would treat that differently than whoever happened to go to the Facebook page and see it and register what they think. I don't know if there's any way to track who is giving what result, what preferences.
We could ask them to submit an email, and we could ask, so we couldn't, I don't think we should enforce it, but we could provide it as an option to include their affiliations. So have them enable some sort of question where they can type who they're affiliated with.
Lauren, are you making a public announcement this via TV or Charlotte Observer for the community?
Let me I'll have to check if it's going to the Charlotte Observer. I believe communications will push out a press release to the public. And I believe that they push it out to the Charlotte Observer, the Charlotte Agenda, and the Charlotte Ledger, I believe, but I can confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Lauren, this is great. The final thing is, do you have the actual, on this PowerPoint, do you have the actual picture of the survey?
I don't have it on this PowerPoint, but I can send a link to the email because I'm nervous to click on this link via WebEx. I don't know if it will work. I can share my screen. Wendy, is that okay if I share my screen? I have the tab pulled up in Explorer.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had it pulled up. Now you're seeing something. Let's see.
Hey, everybody, while Lauren's doing that, this is Julie Isolt. I was getting off another meeting, and so I missed the first part of that. Do you have results in on the public survey, Lauren?
No, we don't. We're pushing it out tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I'm Zoom fried right now.
Let's see. Let's try this again. I hope I don't have too many. Share my screen. Okay. Can you all see that?
Yes, Lauren, while you're pulling that up, I have a quick question for you. You may have answered this also already. Do you what's the time frame on this? How long will this be live to the public, and when should we expect?
I think we had talked about 2 weeks.
Some initial data.
So I think we talked about 2 weeks. So it would be I can send data via email in the beginning of October, and I think you would be able to discuss the data received by the second week of October if there's a meeting that third Thursday.
Okay, Lauren, thank you for this. I think you can scroll down, or there you go. Okay.
Okay. So again, I'll send you this link. You can read it in depth. This is how the survey reads. You have the infographics. You have an introduction introducing the infographics. And then you have the questions. And then after the questions, and what to Pete's comment, we have a few demographic questions. And I think in this section is where we can ask their affiliation. Well, it won't scroll down.
Okay, well, Lauren, I think
yeah.
Look this up and later. I just want to make sure anybody that's listening know they can go to the City of Charlotte and find this information as well as on the social media channels.
So I'm going to stop. Okay.
That was great. Nice job on that, Lauren. That's very impressive.
Yeah, it's all thanks to the design team.
Can I borrow them?
Wendy's part of that team. Well, part of communications. Okay. And I think now Amy may have wanted to review the previous straw votes just to go over what had been discussed and where we're at now. Amy, do you want me to read these?
Sure, Lauren, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. So we talked about 4-year terms. 4-year terms passed with an 8-3 vote. We talked about 2-term limits contingent on 4-year terms, passed with a 10-1 vote. We talked about, the committee talked about a referendum on 4-year terms that passed with a 7-4 vote. And then at the last meeting, a move to a nonpartisan election method, which passed with a 6-5 vote. And I know there had been discussion on if you all wanted to redo that vote, but then I guess we've come to the conclusion that you all are okay with the way the vote was taken. And then the votes are identified, or the vote takers are identified in this slide.
Right, Lauren, and knowing that we're going to be doing a final vote at the end of this process. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
then one thing.
I may have missed. I may have missed this. This is Sam. I may have missed this part of the conversation, but if we go back to do a final vote at the end of this process, can people change their votes at that time, since this is technically only a straw vote, or you won't be able to change your vote? We'll just talk about it.
Sam, you will be able to change your vote. You will be able to change your vote.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lauren.
Yeah, and Sam, what we discussed earlier before you got on is that these votes that we're taking as we're going along in the process of straw votes. Patrick kind of explained to us about the whole process of straw votes, but then we'll take a final vote at the end of each of the items that we're going to be recommending. So these straw votes is just to kind of get a temperature of where the committee is. And so, but these are not our final votes.
Thank you. Thank you. I missed that part. I apologize. Thank you.
That's okay.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, Lauren, get going. So thank you so much for this. Does anybody have any questions about this? Are we comfortable moving on from the nonpartisan versus partisan question?
Yes, I am. Yes.
I am as well.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Wonderful. Okay, so our next conversation really needs to be about just straw vote on staggered terms. We kind of briefly brought that up a couple months ago, or you do, but we didn't go back and straw vote on it. So basically, the data locally, Mecklenburg County Commission has 2-year terms with staggered elections, and Mecklenburg County School Board has 4-year terms with staggered elections. So the question is, do we want to move, if we voted for 4 years, should those elections be staggered? So instead of having a whole swoop of people move out and then a swoop of new people move in potentially, should we stagger that, whether it's 2 years or 4 years, based on the data we've received and conversations we've had with council people? So let's talk about that.
Hey, Amy, before we jump into it, this is Sam. And I may be confusing it, but is this the one that we said that it's not much we could do, even if we make the recommendation, it has to come from the state legislation that can determine if we're able to stagger the term? Is this the part where we had that? Is this one of the conversations that we had? I may be mixing it up with something else.
Yeah. You figure by now I'd
Patrick, I see you talking about, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been doing these things for 6 months now, and I still talk through the mute button. No, the stagger term is separate, and you can vote on that in terms of your recommendation. Obviously, this is going to go to council, and part of what council will be doing is taking up the recommendations, but they'll have the ability, if they so choose, to vote for staggered terms, if they so chose to do that. So you can vote on that now without worrying about the state legislature having to do something.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
So, looking at the discussion and decision outline, which is very helpful. How this information is summarized. Well, I personally like the idea of having it staggered so that it's not a totally new setup. I mean, a whole new set of folks on the council. At least there may be some who've been there for a while and some new. And so I like the idea of kind of having that mix. But everybody will be voted out at one time. Who knows? but I do think it's can be helpful to kind of have that being staggered, looking at the advantages and disadvantages, and looks like from what I see in here, several jurisdictions in North Carolina have staggered terms.
I totally agree with Janice because the ones who are staying there can help the new elected officials. That way they have a guidance and they have role models. It will be a lot easier instead of having all of them brand new, starting from zero. So I believe and what Janice mentioned is the best idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
Pete,
I certainly.
Sam, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sure, thank you. I was going to say I certainly support staggered terms because again, if we're going to 4 years, it only makes sense that we don't bring a whole new slate of new council people, kind of like what happened several years ago. A majority was all new. And those council people had to get acclimated to the process and to the policies and how city council work. And that took a while for them to get acclimated, and it took a while for other bills and policies on the city council side to get passed. So, and then they have to catch up to previous things that was happening right before they came on board. So I think having a staggered term, you always will have a collective of council people that are in a way mentoring the new group that's coming in to try to hurry up and move things forward, and not having to go back to try to bring them up to speed in order to move it forward. So I support staggered term 100%, especially if we go to 4 years.
I agree. I think it only makes sense if we're going to 4 years to do staggered terms.
Thank you, Eleanor and Sam. What are your thoughts, Pete?
I agree. Staggered terms make sense, but only if we go to 4 years.
Okay, Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I support staggered terms.
Okay. Wendy, can you tell if Kristen's on the call? I guess I can see here. Hold on. No, okay.
Staggered term, is that correct?
Excuse me?
This is Kristen. I just jumped on.
Welcome.
Are we voting on staggered terms?
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Okay. Then for 4-year terms, I vote for yes on the staggered terms.
Okay. Okay, so I would be the remaining vote, and yes, for 4-year terms, I would stagger them. So the only people we don't have on this call right now are Mimi, Christy, and Liz. So I will reach out to them and based on what we talked about, ask them for their straw vote and their opinion on it and forward that to the committee. Does that sound reasonable?
I think so. Absolutely.
Sounds good, Amy.
Yes, yes.
All right. So wonderful. So everybody is a yes for that, with the exception of the 3 who are not on the call. And I'll follow up with you on that. All right. So thank you, everyone. So now we need to move to talk about mayor and city full or part-time positions and related compensation. So if you move to that in this PowerPoint, I don't know if you printed out the PowerPoint, but basically I think we can start talking about that. So if we wanted to, Patrick, can you talk a little bit about the term part-time versus full-time in relation to NC state rules first? So before we dive into this, the term part-time versus full-time is really related to more compensation, because we don't have full-time, we don't have a full-time mayor, or full-time council, but it would be more the focus on compensation. Isn't that correct, Patrick or Lauren?
Yes, and I was talking through my mute button again. I apologize.
Okay, so that said, we've had this data presented to us a few times now, so we can see what the mayor and city council make. If you're looking, oh, there you go, Lauren, thank you. This is great. So right there, you can see it includes salary, expense allowance, technology, car allowance, FICA, and health insurance. And then we've got the operating expenses, which is if someone on budget wants to talk about that.
Yeah, we just wanted to highlight. So what you guys have mostly been looking at is the salary, the base salary, plus the allowances, the expense allowance, the technology allowance, and the car allowance. FICA, health insurance are both no matter if they're elected or not, they're budgeted for every council member and the mayor. Now, they also have operating expenses, and these are just for the day-to-day operations. There's about $160,000 budgeted for the mayor and city council each year to run town halls, for printing, for food for meetings, for the organization of meetings. And we just wanted to point that out, that day-to-day operations are covered under operating expenses. And what you all want to focus on are probably the base salaries.
Now, Lauren, this is Sam, before we move on, just for clarification, before we start having this discussion on salary, everything that I'm looking at, salary, expense allowance, technology allowance, car allowance, the FICA and health insurance, all of those are taxed individually, correct? Or how is that work?
Hey, Sam, this is Lauren. So the total cost is what is rolled up for each council member and mayor. We can't really separate it out by how someone chooses to elect health insurance or not. So that's why we have to present it as total compensation, if that makes sense, even though, the inkling is to just look at salary.
My question, guys, thank you so much for the details on this too. This is good. One of the things you have listed on here, Lauren, is that there is an hourly/weekly work requirement for board members. is there a time amount associated with that, or what's the requirement? Do we know?
I do not know that, but I can find that out.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. And I appreciate that point. It says there is an hourly, weekly, or what requirement for board members for part-time versus full-time. It's subjective depending on a board member's personal or professional limitations. I've heard board members talk about, that they spend quite a bit of time servicing the city, and I guess a lot of it has to do with their own personal commitment. But I'm just curious as far as what is the I guess a minimal requirement or so forth.
Yeah, we can check on that. I have not heard of that, but also when we're looking at this as well, so here you can see the breakdown and you can see the total compensation. But as Amy was pointing out, full-time versus part-time, when you're comparing salaries, if we're staying at part-time, you really want to compare to our peer cities who operate under part-time. And if you're looking at this graph provided in the packet, you can see that if we're looking at Charlotte as a part-time city, and we're looking at these six other peer cities, where they stand as far as compensation for part-time council.
Thank you, Lauren. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Okay. One thing that's, well, if we also look at the staff, the salary plus benefits, we also need to know about what is the staff behind the number of constituent services staff members that are behind or that are dedicated to council. And I believe there's 7 for council, correct? And then I wasn't sure what the mayor has for support staff. Can you define that, please?
Lauren, I can if you want me to.
Sure, Donata, thank you.
Okay. Oh, hi guys, it's Donata. So that's my team. So each council member has one. So each of my team members has 2 council members, with the exception of the mayor pro tem and the mayor. And the mayor currently has 3 people on her team. One of them includes, well, technically they're all on my team, but one of them is an OCS staff person, and then she has a chief of staff and another OCS person. So she has 3 people on her team. And then each other council member, other than the mayor pro tem, has 2 council members per person to support.
Okay, and Mayor Pro Tem has 2 as well?
Works with 1 person.
Okay.
Or rather, her person just works with Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mm-hmm. So, and the current salary for those staff people is about $68,000, correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
There are different levels, but it averages to be about 60 in the upper 60s.
Okay.
And Charlotte's is fairly standard if you're looking at comparing it to other cities.
Okay, so what we need to figure out is, well, Patrick, did you want to say something?
No.
Okay, doke. Let's talk first about the mayor's total compensation. Do we believe it should remain the same based on the data, or should it increase, and by what percentage? So let's talk about that. Who wants to go first?
Amy, I'll chime in. I think without a doubt the mayor's salary needs to go up. It's far below where we are with our peer cities, and I don't mean peer cities in North Carolina because they're not even close to the size of Charlotte. But if you look at the benchmark cities nationwide, it's far below the median. And I know we don't designate full-time or part-time jobs, but there's no question the mayor is working a ton of hours, not just at council meetings, of course, but so much work at public events and behind the scenes as well. So I think without a doubt that salary needs to go up.
Yeah, this is Sam. I also support that. And to Peter's point, you know, our mayor is really working a full-time job. Truth be told. And I believe $27,196 is not enough money for someone that literally have to, walk the streets every day for Charlotte, represent Charlotte at all times. I just don't truly believe that's a comparable salary for someone of her stature. So I certainly believe and agree that the mayor, now percentage wise, I don't know, maybe we need to do a little bit, we need to dig a little bit deeper. When I'm thinking about salary, I'm thinking about the number of people that that's within our city. So maybe comparing it to the number of looking at peer cities that have almost the same number of citizens as we do, and seeing where they fall. And also, again, to Peter's point, looking at the median average for a mayor for a city as the size of Charlotte. I think that's how we'll probably be able to determine how far or what percentage we should recommend that it go up. But I certainly support that the mayor's salary does need to be increased.
This is Brandon Pierce. I 100% agree. I believe that the mayor's role should be full-time. And I think if we're switching it to a full-time role, then the salary has to kind of increase. What the percentage is, I'm not sure, but I support both motions.
I agree with those.
Ramirez, sorry.
Go ahead, Christy.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Cici. I totally agree with the previous responders. The great idea would be to have a full-time mayor. And I believe between 10 and 15% for a full-time mayor will be something considerably, reasonable. Having in mind that also the car allowance and some of those allowances can be increased in the total amount as well. Okay, that's my take. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome, Cici. Yes, I agree to just everything that's been said. And so I can just say a ditto. I agree with those comments. Everybody's comments so far.
Kristen and Alex.
Sorry, I was still muted. I agree. I do think that the mayor's salary, even for part-time, should be upgraded.
Thank you. Kristen. Okay, while we're waiting for Kristen, Patrick, I wanted to clarify something because I think it's a little confusing. If we're talking about full-time or part-time mayor or city council, by statute, we are part-time because we are a city manager government. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So we'd have to get the legislature to approve moving to, it's not, we can't say that it's a full-time, we can't make it a full-time position because we have a city manager run government.
Correct. You'd have to, that would require some level of charter change. And it's a combination where, what I'm hearing is, I wanted to make sure that I was unmuted. What I'm hearing is that you do think that at least the mayor, and I would assume that you'll get to the council positions as well, that there should be an increase in their salaries, and that can certainly be done without additional legislation. That just simply requires well, I don't want to say simply, it would require a change to next year's budget in terms of allocation of salary to the mayor and council. If you were going to do something along full time, that does become a much bigger change that would require some level of change to the city charter. I've not looked at whether you could make that kind of change without abolishing the council manager form of government. I'd have to find that out for sure in that regard, but it would require some change to the charter if you're talking about full-time council and mayor.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what Amy said, I don't think that we can discuss that. That's not at all what we're charged with, and that would completely upend how our city is governed. I think the main thing to discuss, like Amy said, is just the salary, and let the salary be commensurate with the work that they do and the hours they put in. So I don't think we need to designate part-time or full-time. It's just that we need to look at the salary. That's our charge.
I agree with that.
Just to clarify, because I want to make sure we're not making an assumption that we shouldn't be making. We're not to address full-time, part-time at all, or about the shared governance, are we?
Well, that was in the charge, but it said, and what is the related compensation? So Julie, are you still on the call? Maybe you can clarify that, because that's not really something that we can so much control as much as, or suggest as much as the increase in pay. Okay, Patrick, maybe you can talk. I'm not sure Julie's on the call.
I'm sorry, repeat the question, please.
So as part of the charge from the mayor was to basically look at full-time versus part-time and the related compensation.
Yeah, those words were used. I didn't get the sense that when the term full-time and part-time was used, it was in the context of the change of the form of government of council manager to something else. I made the assumption, quite frankly, that what we were talking about was the level of compensation for the elected officials. I can double check that, but yeah, you would definitely, if you were going to go to something beyond council manager form of government, you would need, that would require a complete charter change and legislative approval to do that. But my understanding was whether the positions were going to be compensated more at a full-time level or a part-time level. But I will tell you, as I'm looking at that charge now, I've made that assumption, and I don't think, I'm almost positive that the mayor wasn't putting to this group the idea of whether you wanted to continue with the council manager form of government. I'm almost positive that it was whether we wanted to compensate the current structure at a level commensurate with the amount of work that's routinely being done now.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. I hope that helps. So knowing that, how we feel about
Amy, hold on. Julie wants to say something. Wendy, can you unmute Mayor Pro Tem, please? Hold on. Let me figure out what's going on.
Just to note, Mayor Lyles said at the last meeting, I know that this is direct. I know that salaries are one thing, but I've also heard it's supposed to be a full-time or part-time position. You're charged that this is not something that we wanted to consider. We just looked at considering or ensuring that you could do the job, whether it be a full-time or whether it is a full-time job. It already is a full-time job.
Hey guys, it's Julie. I switched over to my phone and I couldn't unmute myself, so sorry. Yeah, no, I was just I just wanted to make sure when people started talking about full-time, they weren't really saying full-time as in changing the charter. So, you know, acknowledging that the job is full-time and paying the mayor that way, I think is what you all meant to say. And I wanted to make sure we all clarified that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we understand it now. Part of the charge.
Perfect. Thanks.
So I think we thought that. I just wanted to clarify.
I'll remute.
I'm sorry. Can Julie repeat that for me, please? I'm sorry.
Well, just when everybody was sort of giving their straw votes and they were saying full-time jobs, I just wanted to make sure that people weren't saying that recommending we want this to be a full-time job, i.e. changing the charter. That's all I meant by that. So, but Patrick's clarified that you can't do that, but you can talk about pay and make a recommendation on pay to recognize that the mayor's job is pretty much full-time, but we're not saying let's change the charter.
Right. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
All righty, I think we understand now. And it's clarified. Thank you. So now let's move to the council people. Do we think that their salary should stay the same? Or should they get an increase? So let me know what y'all think. Let's start with Sam.
Thank you. So I have the same stance for the council people also, especially considering when the census come back and we look at these numbers, a lot of these districts, as it stand, will have more people in there, which will require more of the council. Even though they have a support staff, it still requires the council to be on calls and to almost be doing this job full time, even though we know it's a part-time position. So I definitely support it too. I want to add something else to it, but I can wait until everyone else go. But I definitely support increasing the council pay also.
Thank you. Okay, Pete?
Yeah, I agree with Sam. Absolutely, the council salaries should go up as well. If you look at how the salary compared to the peer cities nationwide, it's not even close. I think if I have the data correct, the median is $60,000. Our council's paid about $35,000. So I think absolutely should be increased.
Thank you. Janice, then Lauren, or Janice?
Yes. I agree. The job that they're doing, whether it's categorized as full-time or part-time, they are doing full-time work. And in order to be able to, I guess, just to live, you know, and live and be able to serve us effectively, they're going to need to be able to support themselves and their families. And also, too, I think this will help to maybe other people in the community to feel like they can maybe serve, you know, in this role as well. So I'm in support of increasing the salary.
Thank you, Janice. Okay, Ceci?
Yeah, I'm totally agree. A lot of them go beyond their boundaries to help the community. Some of them, they don't limit themselves just to their district. So we have to understand that it's practically like a full-time job. I totally am in agreement that they should have a raise in their salary because the wonderful work that they're doing, majority of them.
Thank you. Okay, Eleanor?
I agree. I think that's somewhat of some rate. If you look at our peer cities, you know, we're just not anywhere close. Even the ones that are part-time.
Thank you. Okay, Brandon?
So I agree that the at-large positions for sure should be classified as full-time pay. The district, I'm not extremely sold on that, but I'm not against it as well. So if our vote is city council as a whole, then I support that. But I'm also open to the idea of splitting it between district and at large.
Thank you. Kristen, are you back on the call? I don't think so. Okay. Thank you, Brandon. So yeah, we hadn't really talked about that. Is that something we need to talk about at large versus district? Anybody's willing to jump in? I guess not. Okay.
You know, I'm sorry, Amy. You know, well, I question, I guess, what difference does it make? I question what difference does it make. I mean, even though, I guess, people represent their own districts. Well, they represent a specific area of the city, but still the amount of work and time and effort, I think that they put in is probably pretty much equal, I would imagine. From those I know.
Yeah,
I'm open to hearing others' opinions about that.
Janice, this is Brandon again. I mean, to your point, actually, I've spoken to some district reps who actually argue that sometimes their work can be even more specific, which could be, you know, even more work. So, yeah, to your point, I kind of agree with that as well. Like I said, you know, I'm not opposed to raising district and at large as a whole, making it a full-time pay, but I was just throwing it out there.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon.
Okay, thank you too. So I guess what we need to move on, that everybody on this call is in agreement that both mayor and city council could and should deserve a raise. The question is now by how much? And I know we've seen what county commission has as a benchmark. Lauren, let's see, we've got. So could we pull out the slide from our peer cities that are part-time? Our benchmark cities? I believe there's one.
Hey, Wendy, that would be one slide back. I think it'd be slide 16. Yes. So I think this is what you're talking about, Amy, with the one caveat that the full-time mayors, those are strong mayor form of government. So I just wanted to make sure that we did see that because it's such a huge disparity compared to Charlotte.
Right. Okay, so in our attachment from our last packet, and I don't know, Wendy, if you're able to pull this up, but we have Charlotte benchmark cities. And this was, pardon me, I'm just looking through this document here. I'm looking specifically for the page that has the cities who are city manager run governments.
In terms of, Amy, you're looking for, in terms of the one of the charts that we had gotten of these stories.
Try to. Here. In attachment one, everybody can see this if they have this on their computer or they printed it out. But it helps give an idea of what people are making. But maybe we need a little help from Lauren from budget. Can you jump on and talk a little bit about this? Wait.
Sorry, I'm still trying to find the document that you're looking at. I don't see it in this month's packet. Is that correct? It's from an older.
I believe it's from our last month's packet or last meeting's packet.
Okay. Sorry about that. Give me just 1 second to go through my email and find it.
Amy, are you trying to find out the compensation for the mayor and county council in city manager cities? Is that what you're looking for? I'm sorry, is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, okay. In the last month's package that we got, page 2 of 14, for the city manager cities, the mayor's total compensation, and I guess this is probably at an average, I guess is $78,717. And the city council total compensation is $48,336. This was from last month's packet we got. On page 2 of 14, it looks like.
Okay.
Hey, Janice, I'm having a hard time finding that particular package. But since you're looking at it, does it have the breakdown like how we just saw it, where it was the total salary, the allowance, the car allowance? Does it have it broken down like that on there, or just give you the total amount
For each of those cities, for the other cities?
Yeah, for the other cities, for comparable cities.
You know, I don't recall ever getting that, and this is what she has on the screen right now is what I was looking at too. I don't recall ever getting one that broke down each of the cities, unless I'm just not remembering that.
Yeah, I don't think
yeah, I don't think we ever got that.
No, not that detail. Okay.
And this is what I was reading from, Amy.
Yeah. So we need to figure out, talk about what percent increase, what level, based on the data we see, what county commission is doing, and what's fair. So I think we need to begin that talk, starting with the mayor. So let's see. Who would like to chime in about that first?
Hey, Amy, if I can maybe offer one step to take. If we go to the next slide, you'll see that maybe the first comparison we could look at, that is the only comparison so far higher than us for part-time, is the county. So maybe we want to discuss, do we go higher than that? Do we go lower than that? Just because that would be the first benchmark to say, we need to at least increase to this. I'm not sure, but maybe that might be something visually to start off from.
I like that idea, Lauren. I respect what the county does, but there's no reason why the salaries, there should be that much of a discrepancy.
Absolutely, that's actually the exact same thing I was thinking. I personally feel like, and I have county commissioner friends, but I personally feel like the city officials do way more work than our county officials, and they definitely should be either comparable or making more than our county officials. I definitely support that. Looking at starting at that benchmark as a starting point, and then we can look at the percentage increase from there.
This is Ceci. I believe the difference is probably because the representatives and the job and responsibilities from the city are a lot less than when you refer to the county. We are such a large county, Mecklenburg, and that's what it makes the difference. There is a lot of more work increase in there that in the city. That's probably the reason why there is a difference in the salaries.
Thank you. And I wonder if the reason why there's such a large difference is more so probably due with the fact that that it's been voted down for how many years? I think that was some historical data that we were provided to. So many years it's been voted down to give the to raise the salary of the city council, and I think we've just gotten behind in making sure that we kept up, economically, and providing a reasonable salary for the people who are on the city council. Because I think then the county, they recently got a raise. Did they vote to give themselves a raise, or did they have it on the record? I don't think it was a referendum, if I remember correctly. Was it that they voted to give themselves a raise?
It was not a referendum.
Okay, I didn't think so. So Cece, I appreciate your point on that. I think it's just been, for some reason, I don't know, the city council has just not been, and it seemed like with the city council, they pretty much, from looking at some of the historical information that was sent to us, it was voted to put it as a referendum, and it's gotten voted down every time. That's why I voted against the referendum. People who hear that's going to hate me probably. But especially when there's a heated political time, people just like, well, I don't like what that person did, so no, they're not getting a raise. And a lot of times people don't want to give political people raises, and I'm often one of them. But in this case, it's like $21,000 really. We're not going to get some. We need to be able to have some, people in the community running and knowing that, okay, they'll be able to pay their bills if they do run for city council.
Okay, thanks, Janice.
Absolutely. I have Amy, can I ask a question of Patrick real quick, if you don't mind, please?
Of course, yeah.
Patrick, is it, because I know county commissioners, they pretty much set the bar themselves. When they're ready for a raise, they will vote on it. They don't care what the county, the constituents have to say. Can the city do the same thing? Does the city really have to put it up to a referendum in order to raise, in order to give themselves a pay raise?
The council can do that. In fact, I'm not used to seeing councils seek a referendum for that. It does require, and the Mayor Pro Tem can speak to this, it does require a good bit of political courage to vote yourself a raise. I know in my previous jurisdiction, what they tried to do was to, some council has to go forward with the game plan. What they tried to do was, instead of deciding what their salary was going to be every year, was to sort of bake it in as a percentage that would move or be tied to a level of percentage increase with city employees. And on occasion, they would always do a review of other peer cities to make sure that, based on the size of the population, that they were in that sweet spot, if you will, of where they were in terms of size of communities. But this can be a challenge. And I can remember early in my career, my former jurisdiction had 13 council members, gave itself a raise that was consistent with the market at that time, but caused such an uproar in the community that a referendum ended up coming out to reduce the size of the council from 13 to 7, which passed overwhelmingly, and a lot of those folks ended up losing their jobs. So it does take some political courage, but at the same time, I think if it's if it's pitched well, that it's not seen as you know, graft from the you know, the council members giving themselves money to really putting it out there as a market-based structure, it can be sold a little better. But there are going to be people that no matter what, don't think that they should be making the money that they're making right now. It's just it's a tricky situation. But the short answer to your question is it is not required to do a referendum to do that.
This is Julie. I'll just give you a little background on that. We were going to go down that path, and yes, we can go down. We can do that. 3 years ago, at the very first council meeting, in the year that we had 5 of our 11 members were new, one of our council members that night brought up giving us a raise and as a new council member, and that just went over like a lead balloon. So if it had been done properly, I think we probably would have approached it back then, 3 years ago, but it is just political will. And then it was packaged with, you know, a full-time staff member and everything else. And it just wasn't a good process. So, you know, we could certainly do that ourselves. It's just, as Patrick said, it's just been a matter of political will and going about it the right way.
Well, I think if you have the recommendation from this panel, right, Julie, that would help bolster the support that you need.
Yeah, that's really why we wanted to do it. We felt like the public needed to weigh in. And I will say the difference with the county also is that, and I'm not to say they don't work hard, but we meet twice as often as they do. Plus our committee meetings are kind of mandatory. Theirs are not. I'm not sure if they're mandatory. They just don't have the committee structure that we do. So we all serve on at least 3 committees, and we meet every Monday. So, and with zoning, you know, being once a month, I do think our physical meeting time is quite a bit more than the county's.
Thank you, Pete and Julie. Does anybody else have a comment about what we're looking at now or what's been said? Lauren suggested, Lauren with budget, Lauren with the R, suggested, oh, Patrick, you want to go ahead?
No.
Okay. But suggested just as a benchmark to look at county commission and what they've done. And there was a sheet that showed, I don't know if we can, Wendy, I don't know if you're able to pull it up on the screen, but it showed, you know, what it would take to get city council up to what at least county commission is being paid. Do you happen to have that you could bring up? I know it's tough without Lauren. Well, while we're working on that, had anybody given that any thought? Putting city council, matching them up with county commission?
I'd be in favor of that, Amy.
Yeah. I also stand in favor of that.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, everybody jumped in. So, okay, Pete, what did you say? You said, I thought you said you were going to take that. You said yes?
Yes, that the matching the city council salaries up with the county commissioner salaries. Eliminating that gap.
Thank you. And Janice, you were next. Janice?
Yes, I'm in agreement. Yes. Sorry.
Eleanor, what do you think about that?
So Matt, getting where council is, the city council is the same as the county commission.
Yes.
Would be, yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that's the best benchmark, probably to look at.
Okay, Seth, what do you think?
after Julie's explanation, I believe that they should be equal, because it is probably more work or same amount of work. Okay, I totally agree.
Thank you. Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, Amy, I support it, but for a point of clarification, so city council will be comparable with county commissioner. Considering they will have a mayor and not a county commissioner chair, will the mayor's salary be comparable with the chair's salary? Because I think the chair is paid a little bit more than the rest of the commissioner. Just a point of clarification, but I support us changing it, matching it up.
Sam, that's a good point. Are we talking right now just about council members?
Right, that's the clarification I was looking for.
Yeah, thank you. Great. I believe we're talking about as a whole. Does the mayor and city council, should they be equal to in pay to the county commission? Knowing that both the mayor and the city council, we agree should have a raise, is a good benchmark, as Lauren suggested, to look at what the county commission's doing. And we agreed it was. So here we are. If you can see what's up on the screen.
Well, Amy, I think my question was, will we look at, so I know we're talking about city council, but does the mayor, are we also talking about the mayor pay being increased to what the board chair pay is and not being increased to what the city council comparable pay will be so will the mayor then, do we support the mayor make the benchmark being 57,000 instead of 50,000 like the rest of councils? I think that's what I was trying to get clarification on.
Yes, I think when we're
I'm not sure if that's making sense. But.
Yes, it does. I think when we're talking about this and looking at what's on the screen right now, we would want to bring the mayor up to what the board chair of the county commission is making, and the city council up to what the county commissioners are making.
That's okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I support it.
This is Liz. I support as well. We need to increase both. Oh, I think we're just doing mayor first, to increase the mayor.
Yeah, Liz, hi. We were talking about earlier about we agreed that everybody needed an increase.
Yes.
And we were using this as a benchmark.
Yes. No, I've been on for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So yeah, I heard that. Thank you, Amy. But I do agree with the conversation. I just wanted to let you know I was here.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so.
Apologize for being late.
Amy?
Brandon, yes.
Hey, before I vote on this, my question then, I don't know the answer to this question, which is why I'm asking it. But for, anybody that talks to the county commissioners and stuff, are they comfortable with their current salary? What I mean by that is, it's like, like we're saying, hey, city council salary should be comparable to county commissioner, but are they having conversations saying, hey, we need a salary increase as well? I don't know the answer to that question, but I just thought maybe before we vote on this, are we sure that county commissions are being paid right now the way they should be?
Well, I don't have an answer. But I'm trying to look here. When did they vote themselves the pay raise? Does anybody happen to know that? I don't have that right in front of me.
I think it was either last year or the year before that. And to answer your question, Brandon, county commissioner actually, to the point we've been making, whenever they feel like they need a pay increase, they all just boldly vote for their pay increase. They don't wait on nobody to tell them anything. So right now, I think they're comfortable, but in a year, if they feel like, well, I need $10,000, they will just put it up for a vote at a county commissioner meeting and they will get it. So to answer your question, they just do it when they want to, honestly, at least from what I have observed.
I think it was last year, Amy.
Okay, Ceci, did you want to talk?
No, I think it was last year when they had the last increase.
Thank you. Eleanor.
Am I frozen?
You want to say something?
No, I think my computer has frozen. on my side.
Okay, I can screenshot this and text it to you.
No, I've moved downstairs to see if I can get better internet. I'm sorry. Our internet, when it rains like this, goes in and out.
Okie doke, understood. So we've got Pete, Eleanor, Janice, Ceci, Sam, Brandon, Liz, and I don't think Kristen's on the call anymore.
Liz is on again.
Okay. Did something? I heard something. Anybody want to talk? Okay. So, in looking at the slide, we are saying that we agree that the mayor and city council pay should match that, should at least match that of the city council. I mean, the county commission, I'm sorry.
Yes, this is Liz. I agree.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
It's just Sam, I agree.
And we're just running through it's again, Brandon.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So we don't, again, we're missing just a few people on this call, but I can reach out to them. And Liz, what we talked about earlier about email voting, straw voting, how this is really just getting us, giving us an idea of where we stand as a committee, but we can do a more formal vote that we are going to package up and deliver to council when we're ending this process. And also that due to the nature of Zoom and every WebEx and everything we're doing, that we will take someone's vote via email or text, but the committee would like to have an explanation of, even if it's one sentence, as to why they voted that way, since we weren't able to have the dialogue. So I'll reach out to the people that aren't on this call and get their straw vote. So
Thanks, Amy.
Who's that?
Just wanted to say thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So Patrick, say that we all agree that the city council should match the county commission in pay. What are the steps that need to be taken if the city council wanted to implement this, and the mayor and city council?
So ultimately what they would typically do would be in the budget process, that they would make whatever changes to their salary and then pass that through the budget process. Unless they wanted to choose a different mechanism for doing that, they would take that up in terms of the recommendation and then make that decision when they're taking up the budget.
My understanding is then they would have to vote on it.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything, I'm just posing this question because I don't know the answer. Is there anybody that would, any process where people would protest that?
Sure. The same process that that anybody would protest anything in the budget.
Which would be they come and talk to city council, or they would get 5,000 signatures.
Council, yeah, they could show up at the public hearings. They could send emails, or like I mentioned in my previous jurisdiction, they could come with pitchforks and decide that they want to go in different directions with the entire council.
Okay, so we are in agreement on this, and we are almost at 5:30. So I've got all the votes. I can summarize them for everybody. Basically, to close this loop, we all agree that the mayor and city council should match that of the chair of the county commission and the county commissioners. So we're taking care of that. And we also voted on staggered terms. And Liz, I don't know if you missed that, but everyone agreed that we would like to see staggered terms if it's going to be 4 years.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll add that. And we stuck with our decision on partisan versus nonpartisan. So that's what we accomplished today. So I think we made a lot of progress. We also looked at the survey. I'd encourage you all to go to the website, the City Council website or City Government website, and check out the survey and share it with your networks so we can get as much public input as possible.
The survey live now?
It's live. Well, good question. It's on the website.
I think Amy, I think she was going to make a final adjustments and then push it out. She needed any final recommendations that she wanted those by noon tomorrow, I think.
Yeah.
I think she's going to push it out after that.
Yeah, and there will be, so they're going to just tweak it a little bit, but it's pretty much done. If you have any comments take a peek on it. And if you have any comments, do add them, send them to Lauren, or you can send them to me. And then she'll push them out tomorrow. And I believe there's also a press release going out about it, which will probably go out tomorrow or the next day as well.
And just a quick point. Before we have any idea what the survey results are, what they show, pro or con, I would put more stock in them if we know the segmentation of the respondents. If we know this came from neighborhood leaders or this group or that group. Again, I think I mentioned that earlier, but I just wanted to clarify. If it's just people going to the Facebook page and it's unscientific, then no matter what the results are, I think we need to take that with a big grain of salt.
Right, and if there's a real outlier. Okay, so our next meeting is October 1st at 4 p.m. I would love it if everybody can be on. Please let me know, and Lauren and I know ahead of time if you can't make it, because this will be another important meeting. We may not have all the data yet, but we'll probably have some data and emails that have come in as well. So with that, does anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Amy, I just want to say nice job for kind of with this process today. We got a lot done. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Amy. This is great.
So much. Stay safe in the rain, and reach out to Lauren or I or Patrick if you have any other questions or comments. Okay, take care.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.